Thank you so much for tuning in to Autumn Becomes Me. This is my YouTube channel and my name is Heather Autumnistani, and today we're going to be talking about Wolfley oysters and how to shuck them. Now these guys come from Cape Cod Bay and they're in season from September to April, which means that this is like the perfect time to have them. You can have them in the summer, but they're typically not as good because they're using a lot of their energy to reproduce. Wolfleys in particular are my favorite because they have that mix of both worlds. They're plump, they have a lot of meat in them, but they also have that nice oceany taste that usually comes in the juices. And I really enjoy these in particular too because they have a nice strong shell. And you want that especially if you're shucking them yourself. One of the reasons that I like shucking these myself is because frankly I kind of got tired of shelling out money at the restaurants because they got just way too expensive, and frankly I like coming home and being in my house and watching Netflix or whatever and having a nice dozen of oysters and having some really good white wine. It's relaxing and I feel good knowing that I shucked them myself. So I'm going to walk you through the steps. The first thing you need to know is that these little guys are alive. They're not as scary looking as like a live lobster that you have to cook, but they are still alive. So the last thing you want to do is wrap them up tight in a plastic bag and bring them home and throw them in your fridge because you're actually going to suffocate them. So what you want to do is, these guys came in a nice little mesh bag, which I took off, and I put them in a cute little bowl and threw them in the fridge. You don't even have to add water. These are not like mussels. These don't have to go through fasting, and they also don't have little beards that you have to pull off. These are just ready to go right out for the most part. Now one thing I want to point out is if you look on here, you can see a lot of dirt. So that's actually the first thing. It's not really dirt, it's actually more like a mud, or I mean they've been in the ocean. So the first thing you want to do is take those, run them under some water, and I got this really cute little scrub brush. It actually slides right onto your finger, and you want to make sure to do your best to scrub as much of that off because you don't want that, once you've shucked them, to get into what you're about to eat and now you have this sandy, gross thing going on. So that's step number one. Okay, now that we're back, our little oysters are all clean and nice. We're going to get down to actually shucking them. With me, I have this cute little plate that I'm going to be putting them on. It's actually a wedding gift. And I have these two little ramekins, which I'm going to be putting our condiments in. You can put horseradish, all kinds of stuff. I prefer to use cocktail sauce and some random apple cider vinegar. But I've heard onions, horseradish was the other one. It's really your preference. Everyone has something different. And they also apparently go very well with champagne. So if you really want to make it special, I would recommend that. But what I have today is just for a simple meal. I also recommend serving it with a lemon because, of course, what seafood doesn't go well with lemon? So that's going to be on the side. Now we're going to get down to business. Now, one of the things we're going to talk about too is this guy. It's a oyster shucking knife. That's all it's good for. It's not sharp on the sides. In fact, it's actually, you can kind of see it's quite thick. And the only time it's not even really pointy. It's made to more leverage than cut. So I like this one. I got this at the grocery store that I bought my oysters from. It has a nice thick rubber handle, which is what you want because you don't want this slipping and hurting yourself. So I would suggest, it was expensive and it is a unitasker, meaning it only does one thing, shuck oysters. So if you don't like oysters, I wouldn't recommend buying this. Go to a couple restaurants, try different varieties of oysters, and if you really find that, hey, every summer I really enjoy, so many times per year, oysters, you might want to go and invest in this. What we're going to do with our oyster is we need to learn a little bit about the anatomy. Right here, this joint is where you're gonna stick your knife. And the idea is that if it's opening like this, the joint's right here, and you want to make that the part that pops open. And you wanna do it carefully, because not only do you not wanna hurt yourself, but you're gonna want to reserve all the nice juices that are in there, because it's like half of the reason why you're eating these to begin with. So, what I'm gonna do, here's the oyster, and we're gonna put our knife right there. I also recommend just two options. One is that you get a glove that is more like a mesh, and it's kind of like an anti-stab glove, and it will just protect your hand. It won't necessarily keep the pain away if you slip. It's gonna, prevent you from actually hurting yourself. It doesn't mean it's not gonna bruise you pretty bad. What I like to do is just use a really good dish towel. This is mine, and what I typically do is I will double it up at least. So if you unfold it, get it, fold it once, fold it again, and then the oyster will sit here, and my hand can kind of be hidden so that if it does slip, at least there has 4 layers to go through. All right, just for some anatomy of the oyster, you have this nice flat top, and you have this arched bottom. What you're gonna wanna do is stick your knife right here where the hinge is. So naturally, be careful, be safe. Wrap your hands up. See how I have it right there in the hinge? And then you just push. It might take some finagling. There we go. I just broke that part. You'll feel it kind of go loose, and you can kind of just lift up. Now what you want to do is run that knife just around the rim, just like that. See how great that moved? Now you might get a little bit of dirt in here, just like I did with mine. That's really just residual from the shell. And it shouldn't affect the taste really. Then what you want to do is you take your knife and just run it along the outside, just like that. Good job. Now the other thing is, I do want to say, this is raw. Remember, it was just alive a second ago. So the last thing you want to do is leave these guys out in the sun for 5 hours and then decide you're going to go eat them. You don't want shellfish poisoning. So once it's all shucked, you can go, and I would recommend putting ice on the plate, especially if you're a beginner and you're trying your very best to plow through these, just because it is slow going. I think the first time I started doing this, it was agonizingly long. I ended up just shucking them and eating them because I didn't want it to go bad. But if you're making this for like your friends or your party especially, I would recommend getting some crushed ice just to kind of stabilize it. See, this guy, he keeps wanting to tip over, and that's not really what you want because it's kind of wasting the juices, and that sucks. So we're gonna go and put him aside and get ready to do the rest. And you're done. And hopefully everything went well. I hope that there wasn't any accidents or mess ups. Remember, if you ruin 1 or 2, or if they come apart and it's just not what you wanted, it's okay. This is one of those things where practice makes perfect. So the more that you actually shuck oysters, the better you'll get at them. I have these little ramekins. This has my cocktail sauce, and this has my apple vinegar. I've also seen these served with Tabasco sauce, which I'm not a fan of spicy foods, but if that's your thing, that would be a great thing to put on these as well. I just want to show you this nice, gorgeous little plate. All these beautiful oysters. Now I can't tip them very well because they're full of their ocean juices, but if you want to see nice close-up pictures, please visit my website, which is autumnbecomes.me. And don't forget to subscribe. Please feel free to share. I think I'm on Pinterest with this one as well, and Instagram, Twitter. You can find all of my social medias if you go to my website at autumnbecomes.me. Thank you so much for this, and I hope it helped you, and I hope you get to enjoy those wonderful oysters now. Thank you, and have a great day. Bye.